This video is the first in a series which will examine the settings on the iPad, in particular the latest iPad. So to get started, you go to Settings, and we're going to just look at the general settings at this stage. So tap General, make sure that it is back at the core of the general settings. So you've got About at the top. And in this video, we're going to have a look at the About setting, software update, usage, Siri, VPN, the iTunes Wi-Fi sync, and Spotlight search. The other settings will be in later videos, which you can find in the notes section. So let's get started. The About setting allows you to change the name of your iPad if you wish. The default name is iPad, and if you've got only one iPad in the house, that might be okay, but you can change it by tapping there and going in and changing the name of it. So I can call this one Michelle's iPad, and done. And now I've changed the name, and when you log on to iTunes and you're going to synchronize your iPad with iTunes, that's the name that will come up, and that's the one that you select. Very simple, leave it if you wish. The network settings, or there's a whole heap of settings here which will identify your device. So if you have a 3G Wi-Fi model, which I do, the carrier is shown here. So in this case, it's Telstra Mobile for me, and the line. It also gives you a summary of just exactly what you've got on there, what media is on the device. So at the moment, there's 135 songs and 1227 photos and 415 applications. So the bigger your device, the bigger the capacity that you have. This one is a 64 gigabyte iPad. The more you can fit onto it, obviously. And in my case, it's a 57.2 gigabyte capacity, which means the rest of it's being used by the operating system. And there's only 6.6 gigabyte left because I've got a lot of videos on here. And to free up some space, I'm going to have to remove some of those. Your operating system version, so version 6, the latest operating system came out recently, and so you should be on version 6. And if you haven't, you need to upgrade. And there's another video I've done on that, and I'll leave a link for that in the notes. The model of your device, the serial number, which you'll also see when you're synchronizing with iTunes. The MAC addresses for your Wi-Fi address and Bluetooth, so that's your unique identity for your iPad. Each device has a unique MAC address, media access control address. The rest of it, I have no idea what it is, and I've never used it, so you could ignore safely probably. The advertising, diagnostics and usage, there are some logs in diagnostics and usage, but there's nothing you can't change anything on here. You can't delete anything. It's just logs that are being sent to Apple to help manage your device. So there's nothing you can do there. The About section really is just, the only thing you can change is the name of your iPad, and the rest of it's just information should you need it. Tap General to go back to the general setting, and let's look at software update. And this will tell you what version of the operating system you actually have on your device. And this one is up to date, it's iOS 6. And if you haven't yet upgraded, you need to synchronize with iTunes. That's one way, or one of the settings here, which we'll look at a little bit later, where you can actually update your device on the spot, right from here actually. Software update, where we were, if it wasn't up to date, you could update from this pane. Better off looking at that video though. Usage. Gives you a whole lot of information about how the iPad is being used, what its maximum storage is, how long it's been on since last charge, etc. It's taking a bit of time to actually compute how much storage is being used, which is why you can see the little circle flashing there. But it tells me my iCloud storage. So when you have an iPad, you should also have an iCloud account, and we'll go through how to set one of those up. But it's now looked at the major apps and how much space those apps are taking up. So the Videos app, for example, when I tap it, it has got, go back, 20 gigabytes of video are in the Videos app, and I can go into it a little bit further and go through all the specific episodes that I've got on here for that series. Or if I want to delete it, I can go into Edit, and I can delete the whole lot by tapping Delete, and that will free up some space without having to go through the syncing process, which I won't do. So let's undo that. But it will tell you what's there. So music, it tells you all your music that you've got on there. All your photos, your camera roll, so how much is in the camera roll, what's in the photo library, etc. Your photo stream, which is our iCloud produces that. What your books are. So the only difference between deleting information from this part of the settings and from when you're synchronizing it with iTunes is that you've got to delete the lot. So if there's one book I wanted to delete, I tap on iBooks, I can't delete just that book. I've got to delete the whole thing, the whole app, deleting app, which I don't want to do. This one here is 808 megabytes. If it's too much space, I can delete the whole app from here. And it goes, if you show all apps, it will show you every single app and in decreasing capacity. So as we go through all these different apps that I've got on here, and there's about 415 apps on here, each one of those has little different capacity. So if I wanted to get rid of one, say I don't want this one anymore, I could delete the whole app. Delete the app. It'll give me a chance to back out. So I won't back out. I won't do it. I'll cancel and go back. But you can delete apps from here, and the more you have, the bigger this list will be. And I'll go back to the top there. But the bigger using apps are at the top there. So, I mean, I've got 20 gigabytes of videos that I'm really going to have to delete at some stage because I'm running out of space, even with 64. So that's storage, and we'll need to go right to the bottom of all these. There's a lot of apps, so we'll just whiz it through quickly. There's so many when you do it this way. Right, we've got to the bottom of it. The smallest app, we get to the last one, the smallest app, Date Finder, is only taking up 352 kilobytes of space, which isn't much. The iCloud storage, you get 5 gigabytes of storage for free, and you can use that to back up your iPad to the iCloud, so you've got storage off-site, or you can also back it up, or the alternative is you back it up to iTunes, synchronize it to iTunes, which I choose to do because I have too much. I've got more than 5 gigabytes of information here, and I wouldn't want to pay. You can manage your storage, so by tapping on that, it tells you what actually has been backed up. So I have a phone, and the phone is backed up to iCloud, but the iPad is not. And some of the mail is backed up to that. Not that I remember doing it. The battery percentage, if you turn it on, it will appear in the top right of your screen. So if I turn it off, my battery percentage is gone. And it is really handy to know how much battery you've got left before you have to recharge. The time since the last full charge, so it's been 2 hours and 10 minutes that I've been using this, and that was all it was. And it's been 2 hours since I charged it. I charged it overnight, and it's been up for 2 hours, so it's useful. Cellular Data, if you have to manage your data on a 3G plan, it will give you an idea about how much you've sent and how much you've received. We go back to general, it's usage. So it's handy to have. You're looking for why haven't I got any space? Go to the usage tab. Siri, if you have the latest iPad, I'll just turn it off, this is how it comes. If you have the latest iPad, then Siri has now been enabled for the iPad. And Siri, as it says here, helps you get things done just by asking. So it will allow you to launch an app. You can ask it questions. If you want to enable it for the iPad, you have to turn it on and enable it. And then you can select your language, and there's all different languages. Well, I'll pick this English Australia. Your info, so if you're wanting to, we'll get back out of that. If you're wanting Siri to set reminders for you or make notes for you or make appointments for you, then it has to know who you are. So my info, you would get that from your contacts about who you are. So here's me, and it would have my email addresses and my phone numbers and anything it needs to be able to help me. To use Siri, and let's just hit the home button and go back to the main screen, hold the home button down for a couple of seconds and let go. Launch reminders. Launch reminders. There you go. Still has some work to do, I think. I think it's very useful, but a right pain, I think. So I turn it off. I just can't be bothered with it. But it's got potential. Go back to the general settings. The VPN, which is a virtual private network, and the default setting is off. Our virtual private network is an encrypted network that will allow you to do safe browsing. The reason I have two VPNs on here is that I like to watch television in the US, and to do that I need a US IP address. I need to be identified as being in America, and the only way to do that is to have a virtual private network through a company called Strong VPN, and the link will be in the notes. And that allows me to get a US IP address, and I do the same for the UK. If I want to watch the BBC iPlayer, I can have a UK IP address. So it's a little bit out of the realm of what we're doing here. So you could probably safely ignore VPN for now. iTunes Wi-Fi sync. When you first attach your iPad to iTunes, one of the settings you need to check is whether you want to enable Wi-Fi sync. And the reason you would do this is if my main machine, which is my iMac, is on, and I want to sync the iPad, and I don't happen to be in the same room as the iMac, all I need to have is my iPad turned on, my iMac turned on, my iPad connected to power, and then I can sync now. And the reason I can't sync now at the moment is because my iPad is not connected to power, it's using battery. But it's handy. If you want to sync and you don't want to go to the trouble of connecting it all up to iTunes, you can sync it wherever you are, as long as you meet those basic conditions. Back to general. Spotlight search. Everything that is on your iPad can be found and searched for. And when you go into Spotlight search, the default settings for Spotlight is that it will search everything on your iPad. So if you're looking for a particular mail message, Spotlight will find it. If you just want it to search for your videos or your music or your apps, you can just select those. If I don't want it to search for events or audiobooks, I deselect those. So in settings, it's just what do you want Spotlight search to actually search for you. So if I go back and I search for a mail message, and to search, we go to the very left till you get to the search screen and search for a mail message I know is there. So when there's a contact, and then anything with the letters ACQ in will appear. And really what I was looking for are these last three, which are mail messages, that if I then tap that, will launch the mail app and open up the actual message. So go back to home screen. So Spotlight search will allow you to find whatever you need on your iPad, particularly if you're looking for an app. So if I go back to delete that search term, go back again, delete search term, and find an app, find Angry Birds, which I can never find. So just putting in the first three letters will find anything, any instance of the letters A and G, and there's all these different versions of Angry Birds, and it has a song, ANG, because it has the same letters in there. If I was a bit more specific, just did angry, then I'm only going to get Angry Birds. So Spotlight searching, particularly when you start to get more information and more applications on your iPad, is very useful. And to get to it, it's just scroll left as far as you can go to get to the search screen. And I think if I'm somewhere else, one tap of the home screen should also get you there as well. So that's the end of the first video on settings.